When a rectangle is projected out into the third dimension in the shape of a rectangle, a cube is formed. When opened up, the cube is seen to be constructed from 6 parallelograms.
In making a box out of clay, we have to decide 3 things. 1, how tall do we want the box to be? And if you just put your ruler down and say, oh, I want it to be whatever height you want, and then decide that. And in this case, I want to make my box 4 inches tall. So I can say that the height of the box is 4 inches. And I'm going to make the length in one direction 6 inches long. So the length equals 6 inches. And the depth is going to be 3 inches. However, if I look at the side of this, it's one solid piece of clay. So the side can be 4 inches tall by 6 inches long. However, if I look at the end of it, there's a thickness to the clay. So if I want it to be 3 inches wide, I'm going to have to take into consideration the thickness of the sides, and they're 1/4 of an inch thick. So I have to take 3 inches and take 1/4 of an inch off this side and 1/4 of an inch off this side. And 1/4 and 1/4 is 1/2. So 3 inches minus 1/2 inch is 2.5 inches. So the end has to be 4 inches tall by 2.5 inches wide, or the width minus 1/2 inch. The same is going to happen the top and the bottom. We know now that the top is the 3 inches minus the 1/2, so the top is going to be 2 1/2 inches wide by, and in this case, the ends have a thickness of 1/4 of an inch, so it's 6 inches minus the 1/4 inch on each side, so that's 6 minus 1/2, or 5.5. So now we have the side 4 by 6, the end 4 by 2.5, because plus 1/2 would be 3 total, and the top and the bottom are 6 by 3, but you have to take 1/2 inch off, so it's 5.5 by 2.5. Once I have those measurements made, just want to take a piece of paper and starting in a corner, like for the side, I'll measure 4 down, on 2 ends, so I get a nice straight line, by 6 over, and that's a pattern that you can cut out for your cutting your clay into sides, and you need 2 sides. And then we have the 4 already over here. By 2.5. And you need those 2 ends. And then the last one is the top, and it's 2.5. by 5.5. And those will be your top and bottom. Once you have those drawn out, you cut them out, save them, roll out a slab, and cut those out so we can start building the box out of clay. Once you have your patterns cut out, you're going to want to roll out some slabs of clay again. And I suggest, since you're rolling out rectangles, that you try to pound your clay into a rectangle. So if I start by pounding, and then when I pick it up, I pound each side back into a rectangle, then pick up this end, pound in this direction again, and keep pounding those sides into a rectangle. You'll end up with more usable clay than if you were to just let it get sprawled out into a circle or a weird shape. So just keep pounding it back into a rectangle, and then I can cut more rectangles out of it. Once I've got it pounded out, remember, I'm going to just run it through the slab roller. Once I have my slab rolled out, I can use my patterns to cut out the various parts that I need. Remember to keep my knife straight up and down and cut out two sides. And if you share one side, then you don't have to cut out that piece. And I would suggest marking these so that you know what they are. This is a side, that's a side, end, top, and bottom. Now, once you're done with that, take your excess clay, wad it up and put it back in the sack. And remember that you can then take pieces that you have and sandwich them in between pieces of paper, towel, and let them dry for a day. And then put them in a sack. And let them dry for a day so they'll be stiff enough to put together. Once your clay pieces has stiffened up, that means that they can be bent a little, but they're not real droopy. They can kind of stand on their own without flopping all over. I'm going to take them out. And lay them out so that I have a side, and then the bottom, the end, the top, and the other side. I'm going to start by putting on an end because the top and the bottom are a little shorter for that ½ inch allowance. So I'm going to score this part and score the underneath part of this. Slip them and then just put them together. Make sure that it's even with the top and the bottom and that it's even with this edge over here. And then push them together. Don't just set them on top, but push them together. And if you want a real straight edge, you can put your ruler up against it and then push that out against the ruler. And this little edge inside here, I'm just going to seal that so it won't come apart. Then I'm going to put on my bottom like this. So I want to score across the bottom there and up this side. And then on the end, the back part of this. Slip that. Score it and slip it, place it in there, push down so that you get it well put on, and make sure there's a space over here that this is going to sit up on so that there's room for this to sit up in there. And then I can put this end on, and like I said before, make sure you seal those two edges. Then I'm going to put the top on. And again, make sure that there's room over here for this to sit up on there. And this edge over here. Then 2 sides. Flip and score those. Put them together. Make sure you squish them together good. And then the ends. And then I want to put this end on like this, so I want to score the top of this and these 2 ends here. And then make sure I score the bottom of this because it's going to fit on that, and then the ends of these 2 where they're going to fit on. And push down on it first and seal that bottom edge, then put on your 2 ends. And make sure you seal all those together with your knife. And the last thing I want to put on is this top, which is really a side. And I'm going to do that by first rounding out these edges a little bit, sides out a little bit, so that they don't go in too far. And I'm going to push up in the middle of this just to bow it up just a little bit. Then I'll just score the sides of this, score this part, slip it, and line it up and push it on at the edges. Once I have that done, I can just take it, turn it over, and just pound it just ever so slightly on each side to make sure that it's well put together, like that.
The finished cube can be carved, textured, and/or incised to be a work of art on its own, or combined with other forms to create a larger piece.